There we go. Okay. Drop in the chat. Stop me at any time. I'm going to go over what we were talking about today. You guys are always free to drop your listings into the chat, and I do peek at the chat, so um, we can do audits as well. But essentially, what I wanted the topic to be today was something that was brought to my attention. Was we're getting a lot of questions about what happens if I lose my superhost status. So it can happen, and being a short-term rental host, you're constantly going to have problems that you have to solve, and you're going to have things that come up that may or may not impact your business. But it does not mean at the end of the day, if you lose your superhost status, that you are completely doomed. So I wanted to just go through this lesson to give people some peace of mind about some things that they can do to move forward, and make sure we reinforce the idea that yes, it stinks if you do lose your superhost status or you don't have it yet. But there's ways to work towards it, and I want to help everybody keep a positive mindset about that. So, um, first thing is, what is superhost status? I think probably everyone on this call knows, but for the sake of the recording that will get posted later, Superhost is Airbnb's trust badge for hosts who consistently deliver excellent guest experiences. It's reviewed on a quarterly basis, and the criteria are a 4.8 overall rating. Everyone in this course, there's no reason to not have a 4.8 rating. And unless you are extremely unlucky or you don't have a ton of reviews, which means that any four-star rating is going to more significantly impact your average. You've got to have 10 or more stays or 3 or more reservations across 100 nights, less than 1% cancellation rate, which basically means don't ever cancel a stay from your end unless you have a legitimate excuse, which you can find just by even just a quick Google search. What is a valid reason to cancel on a guest? And even that you want to avoid at all costs whenever possible. And then a 90% plus response rate within 24 hours. So what I mean by that is, anytime a guest sends an inquiry where you're having to either accept or decline a booking, this does not mean inquiries that require a pre-approval. You don't have to send pre-approvals. You do have to respond when somebody says, uh, hey, can I stay XYZ date? Typically, this happens based off of parameters that you have set as a host, such as if the guest has no prior reviews, they're brand new to the platform, maybe they have a bad track record, so then they have to ask for permission to be able to book, or whatever parameters you have that make it your property not bookable instantly. This could also be that it's a last minute booking. I'd have to look at all of the specific standards around that. But anytime you have it pop up or you have to accept or decline, there's a clock. It's a literal clock with a countdown. It's pressure. It's like Airbnb is pressuring you as a host to respond. And ideally, you accept the request. It doesn't mean you have to. To be honest, I very rarely decline stays because I know that I have superb guest screening measures, which I ask a standardized set of questions. And I know that I have my rental agreement that if a guest is not willing to sign, then that's going to be a red flag that they're not going to be a good fit for my properties. So, um, response rate, you have to respond to those inquiries within 24 hours. And if you go, you could have like a friend go to book your property, and at the very bottom of a listing, you will see that you can message the host, and right here. So this is where a guest is sending an inquiry. Message host. Have a friend do this, and it will tell you the host's average response time. I can't send myself an inquiry, so it's not going to do that. But so this is where if the guest doesn't meet your instant book parameters, they're going to have to send you a message, and then that's when the time clock is going to start clicking on the host's end. It really stinks sometimes, you guys, when somebody, I feel like this happens to me all the time, especially with our smaller properties, but maybe it's the time zone relations of the types of travelers that we get. But I get a ton of messages at like after midnight. So, does it impact my response time? Yeah, because I don't have 24/7 coverage for all of my properties. Some we do. But with that said, if you have an assistant or somebody that's covering messages overnight or making sure that guests get in okay if they come in overnight when you're asleep, then your response time is going to improve as well because you're going to have more room to be able to respond to a guest that sends an inquiry late in the night or early in the morning, however you want to phrase it. But where I was going with this is you can have a friend go send you a message, an inquiry, and it will say on your friend's end it will say host average response time 20 minutes or whatever it may be, and that's Airbnb taking an average of how many times or how long it takes you to respond to those inquiries when they come in. So I think mine is 20 minutes. I would say an hour or less, and I think that's the parameter, right, guys? 90% response rate. Okay, also, it's giving you a percentage of how often you need to respond to an incoming message. It shouldn't be 90. It should be 100%. You should never, ever, ever leave an inquiry unresponded. It's gonna ding you. So that is like so easy, I feel like, to achieve. I would say the hardest, most difficult one to achieve is the I mean, I don't even want to use the word hard. It's just there's more subjectiveness behind this is the overall rating and then how many stays you host. Um, because sometimes you can't control the market or the season that you are being assessed for Superhost. So these are completely in your control, no excuses whatsoever to not meet these two parameters. That's my stance on that. And then here's the link that you can go to, which is going to tell you what's required to be a Superhost. So I think it's important as hosts for us to know this, seeing as most of our bookings do come in from Airbnb. Not saying I want everyone to be slaves to Airbnb, but that's kind of just the way of the world, right? There's typically platforms that sort of monopolize and get most of the market share. So we got to play their game. Okay, next part is make sure we've got. Oh, okay. Dana asked, can you share your questions and rental agreement you use? So I'll give you some examples of different guest screening questions. So it depends on the scenario. If the guest has no prior reviews, there's no way for me to know what they're uh, going to be like as guests. So you can ask, a little bit about their reason for the stay. Why are they coming to the area? And what that does is if you say, hey, tell us a little bit about why you're coming to Colorado, and it's summer, and they say something very, I guess, non-specific, and maybe there's lots of grammar typos or the sentence is off and you just can tell they're not actually traveling to come here. It seems more like they're coming maybe to have a party. Um, then you can kind of get that vibe and make an informed decision that way. If they say they're coming to Colorado in the middle of summer and they say, yeah, we want to come skiing, red flags to me, you know nothing about Colorado, you may have other bad intentions. That would be a red flag to me. Then it also opens up the door where maybe they say, yeah, I put 10 guests on the reservation, but it's actually going to be all of my family lives in the area and they're all going to be stopping by. Then I can have those sorts of conversations. How many people are coming? What are your plans? Maybe they say it's a bachelor party. So, and I've had, I don't know, poor experiences in the past. Actually, bachelor parties have been the easiest groups we've ever hosted. So that's a terrible example. But yeah, then you can kind of understand their reason for coming to the area. So those are some examples of guest screening questions that you can utilize. And what I recommend is going on ChatGPT, starting a project and keeping a specific folder that has, Dana, I know you use ChatGPT, so you'll love this, but have a project in ChatGPT that is specifically for guest related questions. So it can help you make a rental agreement and you can have ChatGPT act as a lawyer. It can't actually be a lawyer. We all know this, but you can prompt it that way. Act as a real estate lawyer, give me the top information that I need to cover myself in the case of a lawsuit for, a short-term rental agreement. And then prompt it, hey, I would like to prevent big parties, liability, XYZ. What are the top 5 screening questions I should be asking a guest that has never had a stay on Airbnb before? So that's what I would recommend doing. And you're going to want to specify that towards your specific property. So, my property that sleeps 10, I'm going to probably ask different questions or have more intense screening processes than for my one bed, one bath, where we get a ton of people that have never stayed on Airbnb before and they're just driving through the area. And I'm not as concerned about things like big parties or, anything crazy like that. But, yeah. And then
Um,
you also, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, at what point are you sending these screening questions to them in the process of like when they put a request in? Because this is something we've struggled with and we really don't have anything set up and we just kind of pray that we have good guests. And I guess it's something that I've seen we have on our rules that you have to be 21 or older to book. And there was someone who was trying to book one of our properties and looked younger. And then I went on like a Facebook search and found out she wasn't of age. And we reached out to Airbnb just to say to verify because she wasn't following the rules and they canceled the reservation for us. But I just wonder the balance of like, are we going to be too strict and not get booked versus um just being too lenient and having bad guests.
Yeah, I would say 95. This is a random statistic. I probably shouldn't use statistics that are not backed up, but most guests have pure intentions and are totally fine. The purpose is to vet the guest or screen the guest to make sure that everyone is on the same page versus like try to get people to not stay. So the amount of times, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I rarely decline requests. I declined one recently, for like the first time, I swear, in like a year, because it was a request. I had lowered the pricing a little bit more than I should have on a weekend. Um, and I just knew, I could tell based off of the response to one of my questions, it made no sense at all. And it was for the maximum amount of guests that were coming to stay. And I wasn't getting responded to. And so that's one of my parameters is I have to have a response before I can accept the stay. And so it's a legit reason to decline. Um, but with that said, also just be careful, you guys. There are new standards where denying based on age requirements can actually be a form of discrimination according to their new regulations. So you actually can't deny based on age anymore. So I'm actually extremely shocked. I don't know when that happened, that they canceled the stay on your behalf. So you have to abide by their terms of service and you actually can't set the age restrictions like that. I recommend going to the terms of service and reading about that because that was a whole
Mhm.
thing that came out recently of people being upset about hosts being upset, rightfully so, that 18-year-olds can book your property and you can't say no. Otherwise, it's
How
discrimination.
I just don't want to be responsible when the drinking age is 21 and like I don't want an 18-year-old to be at the house where I mean maybe they are, good kids or whatever, but as I just don't feel comfortable with that. So then how can you protect yourself? Because God forbid we have a pool, like people are drinking and driving on your property, they're coming there and then they go out and they're driving and you don't know they're 19 years old, they get in an accident. Where were you? They're at my house. How do you protect yourself then?
So you have insurance, right? So you have proper insurance or whatever insurance policy that you have. You have a lawyer reviewed rental agreement that covers you in the instance of an event. And you have Airbnb terms of service that you, since you're listing on their online travel agency, that you abide by. So those are essentially the 3 parameters that you meet. And then there's inherent risk in hosting people in our personal properties. And that is part of it. So I feel you. Like I 100% feel you in regards to these. I imagine you have kids. Like I can tell you like know what could happen. And yeah, when we kind of go down that rabbit hole, it's almost like, oh my gosh, I should never post. And I've been there, trust me. So I would recommend just getting super, super familiar with the terms of service as much as like it's boring. You can even plug in the terms of service, non-discrimination policy, for example, into ChatGPT, point out anything and have it highlight the most important things so that you don't have a guest that says, well, hey, Dana and Frankie denied me as a guest, so now I'm going to have a lawsuit because I was declined based on discriminatory purposes. So don't take everything that I say at face value. Like I always say, yes, I'm here to mentor you guys and give you the information that I have in my brain. But that said, you got to empower yourself and equip yourself with as much information as possible. So here it's all here. It's like, um, let's see. Okay, so for homes, guests may not impose different terms or conditions or decline a reservation because of a guest's age, familial status, unless such restrictions is required by applicable law or regulations. So this includes imposing rules like no guests under 21, charging more fees for guests of a certain age, or discouraging certain types of guests bookings because of age or familial status. Okay, so with all of that said, in your screening questions, you can still disqualify a guest. You can't disqualify a guest because of their age. If they hint to you that they are only 18 and there are other reasons that you're able to decline the guest, that has to be the reason. So, whatever language you need to use to be able to kind of finagle around that is how you're going to have to do it. Otherwise, it's a direct violation. I say this to protect you because I almost worry that you have that in your house rules if that were to get flagged. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
but
tons
I
of
see there's
hosts.
something that said Florida up there because both of our properties are in Florida. So I have to, I'll look and thank you for bringing this up. We'll have to like
Yeah,
read more about it. Homes in Florida require lawful minimum age minimum for the guest reserving the listing up to the age of 25 as long as that's a requirement universally applicable. Okay.
yeah. I'm gonna send this in the chat.
Yeah.
Good point. States, I mean, this is why it's like, I don't know, it's just a lot of information to know. I don't mean to be an alarmist in any way. I just, um,
No, that's
yeah,
good because I don't know all that. I just know how people can be and just I mean, yes, we have insurance, but God forbid someone died, because they're partying and their parents aren't around and then they get in a car behind a wheel and okay, while we're covered, it still doesn't change the fact that, it happened at our house and that would not sit well with me personally.
yeah, I feel that. And that is the inherent risk of allowing people into our home, even our personal homes that are not businesses. Anytime someone technically, rides in your car with you or steps in your own personal house, you take on some inherent risk of life in general. And I am like not devalidating what you're saying. 100%, you're very kind-hearted and you're thinking about every way possible to prevent a disaster. And so there's this balance of having that mindset, abiding by the terms of service, making sure your insurance is all set, doing everything you can to prevent things. You could potentially drive yourself crazy almost thinking about all of the things that you want to be able to prevent. It's the right mindset, but just don't let it inhibit you. I don't think that it is. And I speak that mostly to this call recording for everybody who may have a similar fear. But yeah, I would. Oh, what is this open doors policy? So Airbnb
Can
offers
I
hands-on
add,
bookings for.
can I add something to this?
Yes,
Like,
please.
I have had experience with different platforms regarding the same thing. Like, I also feel that given our fear, like we want to definitely don't want to cater to that group who can like smoke or do parties and trash our houses. Airbnb comparatively has very strict rules, like especially even nowadays, if they are like doing so much background checks and everything. So whenever I feel like I get an Airbnb booking, like a booking from Airbnb, whereas compared to Booking.com and VRBO, I double check VRBO and Booking.com guests like how like where are they coming from? Is the background check authentic? Whereas compared to Airbnb, I feel more safe and secure that they have done their part and probably the guests will be more like I can still hope like my property will stay as it is when they leave.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, it's not 100% foolproof, like, but yes, I agree that the processes behind making sure that guests are staying on their platform that are honest is better. I do agree with that objectively. So yeah, I think this is another good article, but that was an awesome caveat, I think, in regards to like what types of questions are you asking. So make sure there's no discriminatory language and that you're not declining a guest based off of anything that goes against the terms of service. And even with like surface animals, you guys, it doesn't matter. The law is the law. And I see people often try to push back about saying, well, I don't allow service animals. It is a battle that you just don't want to get into. So, knowing the terms of service, it's different when, yes, we're running our own businesses, but we're listing our properties on an online travel agency that has their own terms of service. And sometimes it stinks, but we have to abide by that. But with your own direct booking website, it might be a little bit different of what you can restrict, as long as you're abiding by maybe any laws, rules, regulations within your city, county, town, state, whatever. So just to get you guys thinking, but hopefully that gives you some ideas of guest screening questions, knowing that the goal is to be able to invite as many people into your home as possible with I think the theme of today's call is having as much information as possible to make the best decisions that we can as hosts. So okay. Um, great, great, great questions. I love it. So the next thing that I wanted to chat about is guest favorite. So Superhost versus guest favorite. So Superhost is going to be that little red badge, and that is a performance-based badge that you earn specifically. And then the guest favorite is more of an algorithm badge. That's a little bit maybe harder to achieve, but also being pushed even more, I think, than Superhost. So it is going to take guest feedback and conversion rates strongly into consideration. So this is all data that I have from IntelliHost. Again, I do not sponsor IntelliHost. I don't even have IntelliHost connected, but I do read their articles. And I think that they're very data based. So it gives us evidence based practice that we can perform from. So to meet this, I think guest favorite badge. This is a blog article. We won't get into that. But people who had guest favorite um, had higher impressions, slightly higher click rates, and a higher booking rate. Same with Superhost. Everything slightly increases. And basically, the bottom line is, I mean, the numbers aren't like drastically different, but the conversions for Superhost are quite high compared to not Superhost. The bottom line is that the guest favorite does improve your visibility, and Superhost is going to be what makes guests feel more trusting when they are booking with you. So they both play into each other, and it's not the end of the world if you don't have both, but at the end of the day, pretty much has been proven that both are going to help you. So it's something to strive for, guest favorite and superhost. So it's not meant to be punitive if you do not meet the criteria. I want everyone to reframe their mindset if you lost one of those criteria and how you can improve everything you're doing to get those back to then improve visibility. It's like a trickle effect. I mean, everything is connected to everything and what we do with hosting. So uh, the more we can please the algorithm, the more we can please the guests, the more traction we're going to gain, and so on and so forth. Your listing's going to do better, your revenue's going to do better. You're maybe going to get better guests because you're getting repeat guests or potentially higher paying customers. So the third part of that is, I just wanted to validate anyone who has lost their superhost status. You might feel like that you're being punished. You may worry about your ranking, your credibility, your bookings. You may fear that guests are just going to skip over your listing. But the good news here is that psychologically, most people, when you're searching for a listing, don't necessarily filter by guest favorite or superhost. So it's more about like how your particular listing is being perceived when they get those visual cues of the cute little badges. But you're probably not going to be filtered out of all searches because you don't have those items. And hopefully you guys know what I mean when I say filtered out, but when you're traveling as a guest, you can set filters. And I lost my listing, but you can set filters. And hot tub, for example, is something you can filter. And maybe a ton of people filter for hot tub. If you don't have a hot tub, then you may be hurting for bookings. But yeah, so you may not be getting filtered out. You may still be surviving the filter without those badges. So that's something important that you can wrap your brain around, because hopefully it's encouraging. So then what to do to get Superhost back is figuring out what went wrong. And most of us are self-aware enough or know exactly, we can pinpoint a bad review, we can pinpoint a bad season, we can pinpoint a property maintenance issue that caused us to have to cancel a stay, or a guest asking for refunds. We can definitely most of the time have that awareness to be able to identify what is breaking down. So then sometimes it's things that are completely out of our power, and those are the things in life that we just move on from and we do our best to recover. And some things are completely in our control, and we can strive the next quarter to focus on that so it doesn't happen again. I think that as entrepreneurs or investors, if we're constantly being told what mistake we're making and then you just don't do anything about that mistake, that's where I can almost guarantee you're going to fail. And it's with anything in life. But if you know the mistake that's being made, and you're actively going against making an improvement towards that, nothing will ever change, and you will continue to not get Superhost and have the trickle effect work negatively in your favor versus positively in your favor. So knowing what went wrong, fixing your booking funnel. So I really like these articles. Here's a blog post about, oh, I think I copied the wrong link, but they have a blog, and they have two specific blogs on Superhost and guest favorite. So the importance of Airbnb's guest favorite badge, and then how to get the guest favorite badge, and the Superhost effect, how it influences the algorithm. So I really like these articles. Um, yeah. So when you sum it up, the advantages of being Superhost translate to approximately 30% increase. So not to discourage you, but to know what to work and strive towards. So what actions can you take? I want everyone to walk away from these calls with actionable steps. So um, I like am such a broken record, but emotion driven pictures, something that's going to make somebody feel like, ooh, I'm inclined to click that. Photos are very psychological. We have to get somebody to feel something, not just anybody, but our specific guest avatar that we are attracting to our house. We have to get them to feel enough to click on that listing, or we're just going to fall and be another item on a shelf or clothing on a clothing rack in a store. You have to do something to stand out and evoke an emotion. A key takeaway, I've talked about this in previous calls, those additional guest fees are killing your conversion. People are so turned off by that. So you have to be very careful when you're adding extra fees that are just going to make people angry or try to lie to you about how many guests you have. You're going to want to have instant book turned on with certain parameters. I didn't know this one for the longest time, and I looked into it, but a pre-booking message actually does very minimal for you to vet a guest or screen a guest. And so it's actually one more point of friction when a guest is trying to book your place, that they may say, you know what, I don't feel like typing right now. The other one didn't make me type. I'm just going to go ahead and book that. It's midnight. I'm tired. I want to get this done because, my husband is harping on me about getting this trip booked. So removing the pre-booking message. Hopefully you guys know what I mean by that. If not, go into your listing, go to your instant book parameters, and then you can see that this is a requirement or not. You can also have a parameter where a guest is required to have a profile picture. I believe it's recommended to remove that requirement as well. And it does very little for actually being able to screen a guest by seeing their profile picture. So Using dynamic pricing tools, we all know that one. It's like if you're not using dynamic pricing by this point, you should probably just, I don't know, I don't want to say it, but you're not going to be competitive. So you should be using dynamic pricing. And then surviving the filter. Again, like how do we make sure that we are providing as many amenities as we possibly can to attract our guest avatars so we're not getting filtered out in the first place. You can control certain things. Maybe in some arbitrage units, you can't install a hot tub, and you just have to know that that's out of your control. It is what it is. But all of the other things that are in your control is what you need to focus on. So, adding personal touches. This was a big one, and this is where I wanted to end the lesson on a positive takeaway of how much we really do have in our control. So, leaving handwritten notes, custom gifts, or even something as simple that will set you apart from 99% of other hosts. When a guest reaches out and says, "Hey, we can't wait to visit. We're going to be visiting, Garden of the Gods. Do you have any restaurant recommendations?" This as simple as me saying, "Wow, the Garden of the Gods is fantastic. We hope your family has the best time. Here's my favorite restaurant in the area. Make sure you try to avoid going after 6 p.m. if you don't want to wait in line." That message will it's like unbelievable just how simple something like that can change a guest's experience, how it can build rapport with the guest so that when something inevitably goes wrong, they're less likely to be mad because they've already established that, hey, Emily cares about my trip. She showed interest in me. And everybody wants that. As human beings, it's natural. So most hosts don't even do the bare minimum of responding to somebody reaching out and saying, "This is what we're looking forward to." So that alone is going to set you apart from your competition. So yeah, customize things whenever you can. You don't have to go crazy, but a small customization can go a long way, especially if you've lost your Superhost status. Start implementing those customized handwritten notes, whatever it is, and you should then make it more likely that a guest is going to want to leave you a review versus just be like, stay was fine, and then never think about you again. So,
I have a question.
yeah.
I've heard of people, do you ever like recommend or have people done like a little quick video of themselves, like talking to the phone, talking to the guest, and sending that out? Like maybe not completely personalized, but generic, like, "Hey, it's Dana. We're so excited for your upcoming stay at the Palms of Bradenton," like whatever it is. Like, do people do that, or is that kind of cheesy, or how does that? I don't think it
Uh,
really would hurt anything, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not cheesy at all. If you guys wanted to use something like Happy Guest, let them know I sent you over. But this platform allows you to do that and make those videos. I am really good friends with other property managers in the space, and I see people doing this all the time where the hosts are recording a video. It personalizes it. It makes them understand that you are not Airbnb, right? Like you're just Dana, and that's great. Then people feel less, it's like, I don't know what the phenomenon is called where people feel like, "Oh, I can steal from Amazon or Walmart because they have billions of dollars." And so then like the guilt disappears. It's similar to doing something like that, where you make that personalized video. Not everyone's going to watch it, not everyone's going to care, but it can make a difference. I definitely think those types of things are worth it, even in writing, like just doing a message or in your guest book. If you have a picture of yourself and your husband, your kid, your dog, or whatever, and the people read the guest books or they flip through them if you have one either online or a hardcover, and they may just be a little less inclined to complain if they are like, "Oh my gosh, they're really trying here. They're just a family doing their best." So I recommend that definitely. Um, cool. And then we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the call, but focusing on the metrics that matter the most. So, review rating, how many reviews you're getting, what people are saying in your reviews. You want reviews that say that maybe are a little longer or have better context than just like "stay was great." I think that I don't know this for a fact, but I think that's being taken into account with the new algorithm that can read text, fast, responding fast, fixing issues, tracking your performance versus getting hyper focused on things that may not move the needle in any way, shape, or form. So, um, Okay. Then, oh yeah. Oh my gosh, this article was crazy, but photography impacts revenue by 81%. So whatever you're doing to get your photos done, spending a little extra on a photographer that's going to stage your listing appropriately or take different stylized pictures or research the market that they're taking pictures in, it is way, way, way worth it. I promise you, photos. Don't just sign up with any average Joe who has a camera. Okay, and then final word is losing superhost status doesn't mean you're a failure. It's just something that can help you be aware. So take a moment to recalibrate and do everything you can to earn that badge. Yes, it's important to focus on, but it's the experience at the end of the day. That's the biggest needle mover is creating a good experience. That starts with how you're screening guests. That's part of the experience. It starts with how you're responding, how quickly you're responding. All of those things add up to the actual experience. It's not just when the bodies are in the beds, it's everything that leads up to that moment. So, including how they felt when they clicked on your listing in the first place. Okay.